Us Magazine Entertainment Weekly's April 1996 cover was devoted to the 50 greatest movie directors of all time. At number 46 on the list, we found Jacques Tati. The man is a Frenchman who created his own world in the movies with no regard for what anybody else was doing. Tati spent his career as he did his life, at his own pace. Tati made just 6 feature films during his 40-plus year career. Tati greatly admired Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton, and although he continued the tradition of the silent comedy long after most audiences had forgotten it, he never was a copycat. Tati made his films with little or unimportant dialogue. He would not use subtitles because he worried the audience would read them and miss a sight gag. His films were understated, amusing, genius, and sometimes very comical, following slow, misleading build-ups. Tati was exceptionally observant and able to see things others didn't. He often sat at a sidewalk cafe and watched the passers-by. His eyes and ears noted small details that, when exaggerated, could become a joke or even a whole scene. Once Tati had an idea, the second phase of his arduous work process would begin. He would sketch his ideas, hold brainstorming or mime sessions, during which he proved that he knew best exactly how to characterize a person or situation with one simple gesture. He elaborated on his films step by step in this way. In playtime, he would build shots, adding actors one by one, then making them move to see the effect. He continued to add until he had built life into a scene. He recognized the importance of this, and he had a feeling this could distinguish playtime from similar efforts. His directing each and every scene meticulously, going through movements several times, and dialogue with all the actors designated his unique style of directing. His father thought Tati would take over his fine art framing business, and in a way he did. As a filmmaker-actor, Tati framed whole communities of French eccentrics in artful compositions. Imagine a live-action Where's Waldo, and you've got the find-the-joke feel of such delights as Jour de Fête and Monsieur Hulot's Holiday, in which Tati, as his comic alter ego, Monsieur Hulot, stumbles through pratfalls with an athlete's grace. Still, Tati's humor wasn't mere slapstick. From the 50s on, his films decried with rising bitterness the strangulation of rural culture by soulless urban architecture. Born on October 9, 1907 in Le Pec, France, the talented Jacques Tati chef descended from Russian nobility. Grandfather Dmitri was not only a count, but also a former general in the Russian Imperial Army. Tati's father, Georges Emmanuel, met and married the Dutch-Italian Machel Claire Van Hoof. Thanks to the profitable Van Hoof family business, the Place Vendôme frame store, Le Cadre Van Hoof, which served friends and artists like Van Gogh and Toulouse-Lautrec, Jacques Tati and sister Nathalie enjoyed a privileged upbringing. Starting after military service, Tati's way towards an Oscar took an unusual path. Back in Paris in 1925, after an internship in London, Tati successfully played pro rugby for Racing Club de France until 1930. As much as he enjoyed it, his talents for pantomime and entertaining resurfaced when Tati realized his teammates got the same enjoyment from his silly antics, and he decided to get into show business. Successful from the start, Tati toured Parisian theaters and music halls and traveled with the circus, making audiences laugh with his impersonations, acrobatics, drunk waiter, and comic tennis routines, which his alter ego Monsieur Hulot would famously reenact in 4 films. Tati Chef became Tati, and his popularity grew. World War II cut his stage career short, and Tati left to the front. After leaving his pregnant lover, Tati became a social outcast and fled to the village of Saint-Sever-sur-Indre. In 1948, Tati made good on his wartime promise to the people of the village and returned to film Jour de Fête, The Big Day. After Tati's directorial short L'École des Facteurs, in which he created the character of François the Postman, he expanded the story into his first feature, The Big Day, in 1948, a comic sketch of François who tries to introduce efficiency into his provincial post office. The film focuses on a fair that comes to an eccentric village and a postman named François that stumbles upon it and becomes fascinated by it. He gets drunk and with his trusted bicycle attempts to speed deliver his residents' mail with hysterical results. Though Francois was not as beloved as the Monsieur Hulot character, the postman reaches the heart of moviegoers. One of the film's delights is the mailbag and the way it is swung 360 degrees exactly and ends up under his elbow as a mailbag should. Reminiscent of the silent picture era, Buster Keaton said Tati is the only comedian who understood the visual approach of silence in the sound era. Tati uses language mainly to reduce it to mutterings, short phrases, and background noise. It enhances the visuals, but cannot ever deliver a joke by themselves. The Big Day would have been the first French color film, as Tati attempted to film it in both, a color camera and a black and white one. Unfortunately, it wasn't possible to print the footage from the color camera, and it took until 1994 for Tati's daughter to have it restored back in its original color format. Introducing a seaside resort during the summer season to the irreplaceable Monsieur Hulot. Tati invented the awkward and optimistic character that he will forever be associated with. Whereas Charlie Chaplin always used his character, the tramp, as the main character of his film, Tati uses the film's location, and Hulot is only a supporting actor. During his week at the hotel, Hulot interacts with various characters, including a retired general, an elderly couple, and a frustrated waiter, as well as various objects. David Caron asks and answers his own question: what kind of talent creates problems like that for itself? The scene in Monsieur Hulot's Holiday where a pot of paint carried by the incoming tide always winds up on the right position for the obvious painter's brush to descend into took countless takes. When the gag exists quite clearly in the filmmaker's mind, but getting it out and onto celluloid proves so difficult, the process can be a joyless one. But Tati never quit. For him, the ability to find the perfect balance between detail and environment was an essential gift. And his compositions are inherently comedic, instantly identifiable as belonging to a comedy even when nothing funny seems to be happening. One of the funniest things in Monsieur Hulot's Holiday is the sound of a kitchen door. By raising the volume on the effect, thus removing any competing noise, our attention is drawn to what amusing noises things really make. And that is extended to the social interplay shown in the funeral wreath scene. That a spare tire covered in wet leaves could be mistaken for a funeral wreath is ludicrous. But the fact that the tire's owner doesn't do anything when the mourner takes it is believable. In this film, sweetness and innocence was also applied. Tati sets the audience up to feel sympathy when a young girl carrying 2 ice cream cones has to turn the door handle 180 degrees. Everyone has a memory of losing a scoop, and the audience cringes knowing what a traumatic moment this will be. But Tati intervenes, and miraculously, the ice cream stays in place. Perhaps the most notable Hulot film, Mon Oncle, known as My Uncle in the US, introduces us to the high-tech Arpel family, who boast a fish-shaped fountain in their garden, modern architecture, uncomfortable furniture, and high-tech gadgets throughout the house. Their young son is bored with the blandness of his family's lifestyle and admires his childish Uncle Hulot, whose lifestyle is the exact opposite of his parents'.
Ça va?
Ça va.
Tired of Hulot's antics, the parents try to get Hulot a job in a plastic house factory, which leads to some hysterical sight and sound gags. Every component of the film is perfected: the art direction, the sight gags, the situations, and especially the sound gags. Tati tried to film the sight gags in one shot because editing ruins the fun of seeing something magical happen because the continuity is interrupted. As simple as it may seem, it makes the director's job much harder. Tati found if he placed the camera right, he could also use the space around the subject as an additional source of comedy. When placed too far or the surroundings are too disturbing, the joke gets lost. In My Uncle, a dachshund tail raises and triggers a photoelectric cell, resulting in the garage door closing and its owners locked inside. For the gag to work, Tati needed a full shot of the garage door to show the contrast to the dog's size. The question was whether the audience would notice the dog and especially its tail or not. My Uncle has almost no dialogue and deals more with how the family reacts in contrasting situations and less than with their actual situation. This is emphasized brilliantly by Tati's sight and sound gags.
My pictures are more visual. The dialogue is not so important.
For Jacques Tati, every sound effect is an opportunity for humor. My Uncle was a box office hit in both the USA and Europe. It was honored at the Cannes Film Festival, and Tati won the Academy Award for Best Foreign Picture.
The winner is My Uncle.
It made Tati a household name abroad as well as in France for comedy, and its influence was widespread. Tati made an English version of the film My Uncle as he disliked subtitles. He believed they distracted from the visuals, and the English version is slightly different from the original, as well as 6 minutes shorter. Interesting considering there is no documented explanation to exactly say why. After winning an Oscar, a director is usually given freedom with the following project. Tati enjoyed the free hand, and with a 17 million franc budget, things looked rosy. Tati decided to build his own city rather than use Paris. He had a vision, and Tativille became exactly the city he envisioned. Unfortunately, various storms damaged the set, causing it to have to be rebuilt throughout the production, and Tati went over budget. Forced to borrow money from friends, family, and the bank, Tati was able to finish Playtime. Monsieur Hulot visited again a new location and interacts throughout the film with an American tourist he randomly and repeatedly sees all over town. Monsieur Hulot feels out of place in high-tech Paris. The film is unique in that there are no close-ups throughout, nor are there any reaction shots. Tati wanted it filmed in 70mm and used only medium or long shots to emphasize the effect, and his use of long shots make you feel as if you are sitting behind him, observing the scene in front of you. Unfortunately, only the critics seemed to like Playtime. It was a box office disaster and ruined Tati. However, there is not a better film which satirically comments on a technically advanced but culturally poor and dehumanized world. The fun Tati had making Playtime is shown with his use of gags, especially with the new improvised silent door. Tati brilliantly added sound effects in post-production, and in some cases deliberately left out a sound where you would expect to find one in order to gain a laugh. Another good gag is when a glass door breaks, the doorman continues to hold the knob and opens and closes it for his guests as if nothing had happened. A fantastic pantomime act. Tati's creative mind and the visuals he achieved in Playtime highly influenced comedians like Peter Sellers, Rowan Atkinson, directors like David Lynch, and Steven Spielberg, who modeled the set of his 2004 film Terminal, starring Tom Hanks after Playtime.
Maintenant que Playtime est fini, ça a été quand même une aventure longue, difficile. Alors je pourrais faire très peur à Bernard Maurice, qui est directeur de production, en lui disant bon lundi prochain, il faudra penser au premier plan du suivant. Mais est-ce que vous avez l'impression, Tati, que je m'arrête un peu. Oui, vous allez vous reposer, vous allez vous dépayser complètement? Je sais pas. J'en ai un petit peu bavé.
In order to obtain financing for Traffic, fourth and final chapter in the Hulot series, Tati had to agree to Monsieur Hulot starring in the film. Traffic deals with the alienating mythology of the automobile. Monsieur Hulot, in his new position as design director for a Parisian car company, accompanies a convoy to the trade fair in Amsterdam in order to show his unique camper, complete with a razor in the steering wheel, a grill that actually barbecues meat, and a body which stretches to provide sleeping accommodations. Led by PR Bombshell in her yellow sports car, followed by the managing director in his family car, filled to the brims with props to set up a fake forest, Monsieur Hulot gets caught in the antics caused by his willingness to help. Each step he takes gets him deeper into trouble. For example, while attempting to wake the automobile mechanic's wife, he accidentally pulls Ivy off the wall. In order to place it where it belongs, he climbs up the stalk, catches his ankle, and ends up hanging headfirst from the side of the house while everyone is sleeping, causing him to lose money, keys, and comb. Tati uses both his insight and knack for sight gags. Without words, he shows us how car owners look like their automobiles, in much the same way dogs do their owners. He even paces the rhythm of the wipers to the beat of the car owner's personality. Tati's last film was shot on video for Swedish television in 1975. Made at the end of Tati's career and after the commercial failure of his previous two films on a shoestring budget, Parade is a strange film without a storyline which naturally unfolds a live circus performance. The audience is seated under the big top. The band begins to play, and a series of performers like jugglers, magicians, clowns, and acrobats perform their acts in the center of the ring. Tati uses Parade to return to his early career and reenact the same performances. Tati mimes a police officer, and in a tennis match he moves his body so freely that at times he seems to take a flight, even though his feet remain on the ground. He scolds the audience for not paying attention and rules the ring. He appears quite relaxed, showing some clever magic tricks and typical circus performance. There are a few unexpected surprises, such as when a man in the audience stands up and tries to outdo the magicians, and when another runs into the ring with a trained pony. One might express disappointment at the simplicity of Parade, but it's actually a fantastic film. It hardly ever slows down, and some of the sketches and performances acts are amazing to watch. Tati doesn't appear much in the film, but when he does, it's utterly fantastic and he shines in his role as a master of ceremonies. Although it's the least known Tati feature and had the smallest budget, Parade is by no means Tati's least significant or impressive film. Shortly before he died, Tati worked on the screenplay for what would have been his last film, Confusion. Tati wanted to make the film with the music duo The Sparks about a futuristic city set around television and advertising, with Monsieur Hulot accidentally killed on live television. The movie was a visionary project. Jacques Tati's goal was not to make us laugh like in his early works, but to make us think about our obsessions with moving pictures, office work, television, communication, and political messages. This could have been his greatest movie. Already in the script form, it was an amazingly creative and fascinating project. Though he made only a handful of films, director, writer, and actor Jacques Tati ranks among the most beloved of all cinematic geniuses. With a background in music hall and mime performance, Tati steadily built an ever more ambitious movie career that ultimately raised sight gag comedy to the level of high art. After suffering from numerous health issues, Jacques Tati died on November 4, 1982. Although he regretted not acknowledging his illegitimate daughter, the girl featured in his last screenplay, The Illusionist, he was very happy with all his films and proud of his legacy. In the surrogate character of the sweet and bumbling, eternally umbrella-toting and pipe-smoking Monsieur Hulot, Tati invented a charming symbol of humanity lost in a relentlessly modernizing age, which Paris Match acknowledged when reporting the death of Jacques Tati under the heading, "Goodbye, Monsieur Hulot. In death we cry, in life we did not help."